Hey, Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
I am good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Boy, we're different. Let's see what goes on here. Is there a little bit better?
Lighting. It's all about the lighting.
Yeah, I'm just trying not to be too super bright in comparison to you.
Here, I can turn this off too. Whichever.
No, because now you're
Now I'm dark.
Yeah. I was trying
I
to.
have this. I also have this light too.
Debbie?
But
Hi, how are you? Oops. Hold on.
Good, thank you. How are you? It highlights a little bit more of the fact that I'm not really wearing makeup.
Yeah. That I took a few minutes to throw some makeup on.
Here we go. No, it's fine. Whatever it is, it is.
It 100%. And I mean, half the reason why I do these is so that I can figure out the tech. So that, so that I can do them better. And the only way to really figure it out is to do them. And so it means that pretty much every time I log on, I'm like, oh, this is different. I haven't seen this before, which is what was happening just now with YouTube, because apparently I am live streaming on YouTube.
Oh, it says live right now, live on YouTube.
Yeah, live on YouTube, but I would like to also be live on Facebook.
But we're actually live right now, like people can hear our conversation.
Yes, on YouTube.
Right.
On YouTube. Who's going to join in on a live conversation that was not promoted at all on YouTube? Probably nobody. And we are live streaming, but we're not recording yet, because I stopped the recording as soon as I logged in, and then I'm going to start the recording again.
Okay.
When we start our actual conversation.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought this would be a really good creative chat between the two of us. The last conversation we had, I was so I had so much stuff coming out of my head, so many ideas, and I thought that would be really great to recreate and maybe have like a version 2 conversation for my audience. Selfishly, because I want to get more creative inspiration from you.
Okay.
But I just I'm going to keep it really casual.
Okay.
Talking about how creativity helps people in business.
Okay.
With sales, with marketing, with whatever they're struggling with. How creative projects like this can help. How being in a multi-author book can help them. Okay. And we're really, the whole conversation as a whole is not about promoting your book specifically, but about encouraging anyone who watches the video at any time to take some inspiration from the conversation to help them with their business.
Okay.
in the ways that, you know, book marketing and the creativity consulting. Is that what you do?
There is. I call it your creative shui. So yeah, so there's basically 7 elements, which when we kind of see where we're at, help with joy and happiness. So yeah. So it's kind of like looking at those elements, seeing where we are, and figuring out where people need, where it would benefit them to be like, okay, you're really out of balance, which basically means you're like too much of doing one thing and not incorporating some other things into your life. So what does that look like? What do we need to incorporate? What would actually bring you more joy? What are some things that you've been wanting to do that you maybe haven't had a chance to do? Because believe it or not, when you step back, you know the whole thing. You step back and then these other things flow better because you're feeling more connected, you're feeling more communicative, you're feeling more expressive. And when all of this happens, everything changes in your world. And we kind of forget that because we get so myopic with,
Yeah,
I gotta go, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. But when you're like in that frazzled state, you're not open.
yeah, and focused on getting the goal of what we want to achieve rather than focusing on the path and the journey and the benefits that we get from the exercise, from the activity that we're taking,
Right.
which really we can't guarantee the exact outcomes. And
What
so
can you guarantee?
if we're focused on that, then it's, you know, it's kind of lost. So that, like, ultimately that's the conversation that I want to have.
Cool. This will be fun.
The introductions will, you know, I'll introduce you in like a few words, but I'll also give you a moment to introduce yourself and talk about, you know, whatever you want to talk about for a few minutes.
Okay.
I think we'll talk maybe for 30 to 45 minutes. I kind of want to, I want to talk about like the impact of creativity and creative exercises or sort of like creative hygiene in your life.
I like that way of saying it. Yeah.
Sort of like sleep hygiene is a new term for me in the last few years. Creative hygiene, and that in general. And then talk about like the benefits of being in a book and how that takes that creativity element. Like if you're not sure how to actually execute on this, here's an opportunity for you. And then at the end, definitely talk about the details of the opportunity of your book that's closing, and or what you have offered for, you know, if you have already something ready for all of next year that you want to tell people about. And that's it.
Yeah, cool. Could people maybe be joining live, or is this just recorded?
They may be joining us live if I can figure out how to live stream it on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Do that now.
Whatever it is. We're just having a conversation.
Yeah. Literally every time I log into Zoom to do a live stream, something has changed. And if I try to do it from Facebook, everything has changed now. So
I know so much has changed over there. Really has.
Yeah, it really has. And like they were like, oh no, we're just changing the name of the head company, not even Facebook. Nothing's really going to change over there, but it's kind of like everything changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start the recording, I guess. Okay. This computer, stop the live stream. How do I want to try and get copy streaming link. Maybe if I just put this streaming link into Facebook, it will.
Because when you clicked on the initial Zoom where it had the 3 dots, it should say Zoom or Facebook.
Well, it had the options. There was a drop down, YouTube or Facebook. Yeah. But now those drop downs are gone.
Do you want to end this and go back? We can log back in.
but then I think we're starting a different thing. Let me just see if I can just put the link in here. Go live yourself or with others, create live content. Oh God.
So I know when we did the summit, it was like those three dots and then Facebook and then which group are you streaming into and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and now Facebook has added a whole new page even before the live producer. A title, tips, get started, streaming key, webcam streaming software. I don't know. I don't know.
If you want to end it and go back, we can, or just press record and we can.
Yeah. Let me just. So we're not going to. We're live on YouTube. Mm-hmm. We'll record this and then I'll go back and share it on social channels later.
Okay. There we go. Going with it.
Oops, stop video. That was not the button I meant to press. Record on the cloud. Hello, everybody. This is Debbie Horovich from Social Sparkle and Shine. I'm super happy to be here this afternoon to have a conversation with everyone who is in my community and watching. And I'm welcoming today Hollis Citron, who is a new friend of mine in publishing. And she is a creativity consultant and coach. As well as a book publisher, and she's got some projects that are really exciting on her desk at the moment. And I had a conversation with her just about two or 3 weeks ago, where she interviewed me, and it was such a fascinating conversation. I came out of this conversation with my head exploding with creative ideas and momentum and feeling so encouraged. And I really I couldn't even stop thinking about it. The title of the conversation that we had last time was, "You're in a book, now what?" And it gave me so many ideas. It even inspired me to really write along that topic specifically and create more content specifically around the topic of, once you're in a book, now what the heck do you do? Once you've done that stuff, how do things happen? So I wanted to have this conversation with Hollis today to share with all of you her genius, her magic, how she can help inspire all of us. We're coming up to the end of what has been probably the longest year in history of many of our lives. The longest, slowest, and weirdest year, but also one of the fastest years I've ever had. And change is so big. While we've had struggles and challenges that were different for all of us, especially because of the pandemic and changing careers and changing job and the whole, everyone's lives are changing in this year. And so I felt like having a conversation, having Hollis come in and share with us some of the ways that we can use our own creativity, our own creative divine inspiration that's within us, would help bring us through the holiday season, leveraging what we've already built all year long, what we've been working on, and bringing us into 2022 with some great creative momentum. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Hollis, for being here today. Now, I've only just introduced you as a creativity coach and consultant. Please tell everyone more about what you do and what you're passionate about.
Oh, Debbie, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction and all that you said. And thank you everybody who's catching this on the replay. very grateful, very kind. So I call myself actually a creative inspirer. A little bit of who I've been, who I am, art teacher for 30 years. And I kind of had excuse my language, my fuck you 51s. And I've predominantly taught in underprivileged spaces, and I've taught in non-traditional, traditional settings, non-traditional being homeless shelters to artist in residencies, to having my own businesses, teaching, running staff developments, to having working in public, private, and charter schools. And when I turned 51, which was 3 years ago, I got the piece of paper saying, "Are you coming back in the fall?" And I was like, "Nope, I'm not." I need to change. I want to work with adults in this whole adulting thing, and why we deny ourselves joy and happiness, because we get caught up in life. So I started my companies. I am creative, experiential kids, creativity coaching, teaching online. Started my podcast, Creative Conversations with Hollis, where my whole mission is to expand the societal definition of creativity beyond drawing and painting and empower people to own their voices and talents that come in so many different forms. Yeah. So I started my podcast asking the same 3 questions. How do you define creativity? How do you incorporate it into your life? And why do you think it's important? I've spoken to physicists, biologists, real estate agents, Reiki masters, musicians. I've spoken to 160 people asking the same 3 questions, and not one answer of defining creativity has ever been about drawing or painting. People have defined it as courage. People have defined it as passion. People have defined it as that magical spark. There's been I've been so blessed with these conversations, and it just reinforces the validity of what I'm trying to say. So, and then I started my publishing house in April of this year, 2020. And again, it was just another extension and another way to share people's stories. Because I've always believed ever since I was a little kid that everybody has a story. As we know, many people have said this, but I've always envisioned that I would literally see people and be like, they have their own little movie going on, and they have their own little movie going on. And sometimes our movies cross and we interact for a little bit, for however long we interact, whether it's 15 seconds or whatever, lifetimes. And I've just always found it really interesting. So anyway, so now I've kind of called myself a creative inspirer as opposed to an art teacher. That's always within me, and it's always, and just trying to spread the message.
It's fascinating how you say that people get stuck in their lives, and even yourself, you went through that. Even as an art teacher, it sounds like what you're saying is that people really get stuck in a rut.
We do.
And forget that creativity can be all sorts of things. It doesn't just have to come from artistic expression. But creativity can be anything, and it truly is fundamentally. I mean, I had this realization maybe about 10 years ago that as human beings, creation and creativity is in our DNA. It's how the species continues. We recreate by having babies, by that is fundamental. Like, the human species would not continue if we were not fundamentally creative beings.
We're creators. We're creators. We're creators.
We are creators. We're not just consumers.
We create as soon as we wake up. As soon as you wake up, whether you feel like it or you don't, you create your day. You create, it's not just happening to you. Yeah. We also create it. So what are you going to put on your body to wear? How are you going to wear your hair for the day? What kind of what kind of makeup are you going to put on? What are you going to consume? What are you going to feed yourself? What are you going to make? You're
also creating your future, right? Like, you can take that. What is my mindset going to be for today? What is my message or my mantra going to be for today? And that literally shapes how your day goes, how your week or your month goes.
Well, you can have that thought of, oh, God, everything happens to me. And you can have that crap mentality, kind of like, because stuff happens and stuff. You wake up, let's say
Absolutely.
you wake up and you trip, you bump your foot, and you really hurt yourself, and you're like, well, that's going to set the tone for the day. You could either be like, well, I guess my day is going to suck, or you could be like, okay, that really hurt. Let me get over it. Let me move to the next point and let me pivot my thinking. Because if we stay in that for the whole day, then we know that one thing affects another. So if we kind of go into jumping like this whole thing of what's the future look like, that can be really overwhelming. So it's like, let's take moment by moment, day by day, and build it and see what we can do, and just kind of take the pressure off ourselves. We take ourselves so seriously. So serious. And I'm guilty of this. I've been doing it for the longest time. So hard on myself. My mother would say to me, she's like, aren't you tired of beating yourself up? I'm like, I'm trying to stop.
Oh,
She's like, well, are you really trying that hard? And it really got to a point of it really started changing when I decided to leave the position I was in because I was going more with my passion.
and I think that that's really common, especially right now, because we're seeing that great transition, the great escape, people in droves deciding not to return to their career, not to return to the office, and having to change their career and their futures right now. That is really one of the key things, I think, for people is finding that next point of inspiration. I mean, going back to what we were talking about before I started the recording, I think for a lot of people, there's a real struggle to let go of the results, to let go of controlling and placing responsibility on ourselves for everything that happens in our world, for everything that happens in our lives. It has nothing to do with us, but we think that when we experience it, it's because of us. And that I think puts a whole lot of pressure on people. Like, I mean, I wish I could achieve and do more, but when I think about specifics, I don't tend to beat myself up, because I place my rewards and my feelings for myself on my effort and my openness. So I will, I know what I'd like to achieve in my outcome. And I don't know what steps I need to take to get there, which is usually what I think stops a lot of people from making a real effort, is that they don't want to take steps and have failure. But I recognize that failure is a part of that growth, and trial and error. Creativity innovation comes from failure. Innovation comes from pressure. You can't really truly grow without failure. So what do you say about all of that?
Well, you need to have contrast. You need to have what you don't want to know what you do want. And you're going to screw up. It just is. It's just part of the process. There's going to be things aren't going to go your way. Things are going to go differently. But that's where we learn. And that's where we often find, maybe annoying to hear, but those magical moments where, because you weren't so in your head thinking about something, that something actually happened. And you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. I actually really like that, because I didn't overthink it. I didn't spend time talking to 10 million people about it. And what could have been the result?
Yeah, getting discouraged.
It just kind of happened. And it's something that in the classroom, it would be when the kids would come in the room, I'd have the same mantra basically up on the board. And it would be, the kids would take turns reading it. Treat the materials with respect. Treat each other with respect. What happens when we make a mistake? Beautiful, oops, try again. And then, because there's actually a book here, I was just referring to it yesterday, called Beautiful Oops. I love this book. And it just basically talks about, you make a mistake. What do you do with it? Okay, you spilled something on the paper. It's a stain. Oh, we can turn it into something else. That's constantly what's going to happen in life. So I agree. I think people get stuck on failure. What are people going to think? Am I good enough? If I screw up too many times, if I screw up at all, then I'm not an expert. People won't trust me, all this kind of stuff. But when you think about it, and just like you said, innovation. I mean, in order to create the light bulb, he failed like 15,000 times in order to, it's like anytime you're innovating, anytime you're creating, whether it's new to everybody or new to you, you have to go through a trial and error process. And it's just part of it.
And there is no level of expertise in anything that we're doing in life. You can't achieve a level of expertise immediately, instantly. Like talent does not equal expertise. And so you have to, if you intend to become an expert in anything or known as the expert for anything, you will undoubtedly have to go through periods of failure where you are consciously testing things that you think will not work. Let me put the things I'm sure won't work out of the way first. Let me test them and get used to a little bit of failure. Let me try the things that are so ridiculous first.
Right. Right. And you have fun in the process. I think that's really kind of where we get lost, is you may be like, Hollis, it's annoying, like whatever. But seriously, it's like having fun while you're making the mistakes. And really, when you think about it, when you dial back to any kind of memory that you have with your friends, with your family, with whatever, a lot of them come from these silly moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't have to be some extravagant thing. It could have been you sitting around a table, just having like a silly conversation, playing a game and being really ridiculous. Maybe you like were walking and tripped. I'm queen at this. Like, I laugh when people fall. And it's kind of like my dad. I remember one time he called me and we weren't even in the same state. And he's like, Hollis, I just needed to call and tell you I tripped. And I just started cracking up. He's like, okay. Like, it's been like 30 years that happened, but I still remember, not that that's a huge thing, but it's these little things that we do. So you just have to really start to embrace it, and it frees us up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It does, because any amount of time, energy, mental effort, spiritual energy that you put into trying to control things that you can't control.
That's the word, control. Because we become such control freaks.
Mm-hmm.
That and that's how I'd be too, especially in the classroom, which is where I started to get really tired.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, well, I want the kids to, or the adults or whoever it was, to have good experience. And I'm going to plan this and I'm going to do this. And then if it didn't go well, then I take responsibility. Well, what was wrong? And how can I tweak it? And what could I do? And then I'd come home, and also I was working in stressful situations where people had a lot of stories. Everybody has a story, but there was a lot of stressful stories attached to these little kids. And being an empath, I would absorb it. So then I'd come home, and then I was a jerk to my own kids. And they were kind of used to me because I had done it all their life. But then at one point, my daughter said, "Who are you mad at?" She's like, "Are you mad at me? Or are you mad at your job?" And I was just like, oof, boy, that's not good. Like, that's not how I want to show up. It's not how I want to show up for me. It's not good for my health. It's not good for anybody that I'm servicing around me. It's not good for my family, most importantly. And it all has that ripple effect. So, it's just, we get this control and this fear of, well, I don't know. And I'm not telling people to go out and quit their jobs. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that life is short, though. And however you approach it, it needs to come from an angle of joy and happiness. It's just
Yeah.
everybody.
Because you might never get to the goal, and how you enjoy today or how you live today is really what matters. It doesn't matter whether the goal ever materializes in the way that you saw it or didn't, or different or better ways. What matters is how you live today, because we might not have tomorrow.
We really don't, but I was talking to somebody earlier on my podcast, and she said creativity is passion. It's that spark. And it is, because when you start talking about things, it's like, as we're talking about this, it's exciting. And it feels that way, and you get ideas and you get downloads, and you can feel the energy. The energy becomes palpable. So it's like anybody listening, when you relate that to whether you're sitting around a business table coming up with ideas of, okay, well, we could, if it's in marketing, well, we could advertise to this market, and we could do it from this angle. We could do it from that angle. Whether you're a scientist coming up with cures for diseases, there's an excitement in, even if it might be kind of individual, you're still interacting, and it's exciting in what you're seeing through that microscope and what you're creating. It's like everybody has it in their life. It's just a matter of the awareness and not being so closed and, like we said, controlling, I think.
Yeah. Is there for people who are in this transition period, trying to figure out, what do I do with my career? How do I improve on my business goals? Is there a sort of starting type of exercise that you would recommend people try to stimulate their creativity?
I think where I always tell people, especially like if you're asking if they're not kind of sure which direction they're going, like things are new, it's getting grounded first, and just starting with something, just doing something, and not being so in your head. Someone approached me recently, and she's approached me before asking me a question about, and I kind of blatantly said, I'm like, you just got to start. Like, you just have to do one thing, because we have all these ideas. Again, it's kind of like needing to be perfect. Well, if I don't do that well, then, so then we can keep ourselves in that cycle for a really long time. So what I say is kind of like, pick something, whether it's even a walking meditation, like that to me is like a creative aspect, because you're taking that time, you're getting this groundedness, you're opening up your awareness, and you're looking around. It doesn't have to be this meditation. It's okay, look at all the colors. I mean, here on the East Coast, it's fall. It's beautiful colors. The birds are like all over the place. The sounds that you're hearing, it's kind of like tuning into that. And when you tune into that stuff, then these other things start to excite you. Then you're kind of like, ooh, I just got an idea for something I want to make, like food for dinner. Or, oh, I really want to call this person because I've been wanting to call them and they make me feel really good. Or, oh, I want to actually go home and journal because I haven't written in a long time. It's kind of like one thing has a domino effect for other things.
And I think for largely, it sounds like it comes back to the connection that creativity is not actually in our heads. It's not just in our heads. Creativity is a physical experience that exists in this universe, in the energy that we exist within. And grounding, in order to ground ourselves, we have to remove ourselves, we have to get out of our heads and remove ourselves from the physical situation. I've heard studies and reports that say when you're looking for creative inspiration or ideas or solutions, one of the best things that you can do is any sort of physical activity that exercises both sides of your brain. Yeah. So something like bicycling or walking will very often you'll have that inspiration because you're removing yourself from the distractions, the regular, the comfortable, I know where my desk is, I know where the light switches are, I know what the noise level is like. And you put yourself in an environment where physically you're moving your body, you're stimulating both sides of your brain, which that's the really key thing about doing a physical activity that uses your whole body, is you stimulate both sides of your brain, both logic and creative. And then you're inspired.
Thank you for that science aspect. And yes, exactly. And I love that you mentioned the word connection also, because connection is a really powerful word. I think it all starts within. Like we have to, which can be uncomfortable too, because we spend so much time on the external that we kind of forget who we are and what actually we enjoy and what we're good at and what we're not good at and what we want to do. And because there's so much external stuff all the time. So when we actually take that time, whether I had an instructor that said in college, he said, even if you go to your studio space for an hour a day and do nothing, you're there. Mm-hmm. You're getting in that mindset of being there. And then you'll start to do a little something. And then you'll start to do a little something more. And as we know, when we get into something that we really enjoy, the concept of time gets lost. Because all of a sudden we'll be like, oh my God, it's been 4 hours. Like I had no idea that time went by that quickly, because now I'm like fully engaged and like I'm not thinking about all that other external stuff. And then because of that connection, we connect better with others. We actually want to, because our energy, our vibe is higher. So we want to engage with others at a higher level. We want to do these things more consistently that we enjoy. And just everything it's again, using the word domino effect, everything is just better because we're going inward to go outward. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think also it allows you some clarity, that sense of overwhelm. Like when I think about, when I'm just inside the walls of my apartment, which I've been inside of for more than a year now because of lockdowns and shutdowns and COVID and all of that. When I'm inside the walls of my apartment, there's still constant stimulation. Even though the walls don't move, the walls don't change, I know where the walls are, I'm still having stimulation coming at me from the external rather than allowing myself to focus on the internal. So it's almost like when I leave my apartment and I go out walking, and now I'm not in control of the whole world and of all the cars and the birds and the trees and the sun. That external stimulation allows me to go internal and not be as distracted or dissuaded or just sort of overwhelmed by the same old kind of being,
it's
here's
monotony.
My everyday.
Yeah, it's monotony. It's kind of like the monotony, and it's true what you're saying is like there's this comfort that people get in knowing what to expect. Mm-hmm. Like you said, in knowing where the light switch is. But at the same time, like when you're in your house, when you're confined, it depends on how you're approaching it. Like if you have to be on the computer so much for work, then you could be distracted with social media, which is a lot coming at you all the time. So there's a lot of stimuli kind of coming at you, which mm-hmm. can seem kind of competitive. It can kind of seem, then it kind of plays with your emotions, and then you get in your head, and then you're doing your work and all this kind of stuff. And it just helps to remove yourself from any situation, even if you couldn't go outside, even if it's to another part of the house where you were just doing something totally different than you hadn't done before. It's mm-hmm. switching up the routine. You need to switch up the routine.
Yeah. 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 And I think I had a coach once who spoke about how, and it seemed really strange to me at the time, but over the last few years, I've really come to sort of recognize the value in what he was saying. But he was really saying, like, whatever your habits are, change them. If you never eat meat, start eating, like, eat some meat. If you never drink coffee, drink some coffee. If you always do X, Y, and Z, switch it up. Stop doing it for a few days. And I never could understand. He put this right at the beginning of the course. This was Sam Ovens in Consulting Accelerator, which is a phenomenal program. But I was a little bit confused by how at the beginning, when you're trying to figure out your strategy, why he's suggesting change everything, do things differently, challenge yourself. And to me, that seemed almost like a distraction, but now I see what he was really telling us to do was get comfortable with trying new things. Get comfortable, completely remove, and in fact, start rewarding yourself for making the effort, especially when it fails. So if you get that habit, if you get that physical and emotional feeling of it's going to feel good to test this, regardless of what the outcome is, and you can start testing things that are more and more extreme that you would have never considered. These are the things that nobody is testing. And that's where real innovation and creativity can come from, when you're constantly in that state of, let me test it. I think I know where the light switches are. I think I know where the walls are, but let me actually push on it and see if I can move it, because maybe it's all a concept in my brain.
Yeah. I love that. It's like, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And yeah, constantly.
And then you're constantly improving. You completely remove and reframe failure, because you can literally reward yourself for the result, regardless of what reward yourself for the action, regardless of the result. And then it puts you in a more, I suppose, a more controlled state, regardless of what happens.
And it's just kind of being like, okay with, like, I had a previous business and I had a business partner for 10 years, and it just wasn't the best, wasn't the healthiest for me, I can say. And things were looked upon often from this other person that, like, one time, I'm just saying this for the idea of reframing and what I learned from the situation. Like, something was put up on social media and there wasn't the correct punctuation or something, and I was kind of berated for it. And now it took a while. Then I had that stuck in my head for a while, this perfectionist thing, that things had to be this perfect thing. And what if it went up like that? And what would people think? And I'm obviously not good at that. It was kind of like this, like, that was like a whole bunch of crap.
It takes just, like, down.
Nothing but negative. Like, there was nothing positive going on there. It was a total downward spiral. So it kind of took a number of years. But then now, if you ask me, I'd be like, my bad. Fix it.
So what? Yeah, exactly. Let me go fix it, maybe.
Like, what's the big deal? Or, yeah, I'm a human. I made a mistake. So we have to go through what we need to go through. I just wish for people to have it a shorter time frame, so they don't have to go through the shame spiral and berating themselves, which does nobody any good. That stuff happens. We fix it. We don't fix it. We move on. Like, whatever it is, not to make it, like, so simplified, but at the same time, it's just got to be kinder to ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remind myself I'm human constantly. I mean, I also, I think a lot about how, you know, like I've got nearly 5 decades on this earth, and there are things that I still want to achieve and accomplish. And I've got my list of things that I have done, but that a lot of it, I have to remind myself that I'm human, and it is my enjoyment of my life, how I feel about myself and my relationships with others today, that really matters. Nobody cares about my achievements. Even I, you know, like at the achievements that I haven't made or the achievements that I have made, it's hard to say how much they really impact me. But what does impact me the most is how I feel about my connections to other people. But it kind of makes me wonder, Hollis, because you've had that experience of working with a business partner, how I sort of feel like some people just don't get it, right? Like there are some people that live their lives on the superficial plane, where the story that they tell themselves and everybody else about their experience in life is the truth. And there is no openness to trial and error. There is no openness to changing those hard fought and hard won principles that they're holding on to, that they believe are a cornerstone to the success that they're trying to achieve. How does someone deal with that? Like if you're open-minded and trying to be a more creative person in your business, and you're working with someone, a partner, or perhaps a spouse or someone like that in your life that you don't want to give up, or you can't give up, how do you balance that, or how do you recommend that?
It's a good question. First word that comes to mind is boundaries and clear communication. I really believe and understand more that there needs to be, you need to express, because whatever you're not expressing, you're repressing. And again, that's not any good. So I think a word as you were speaking before that kind of came to mind was like just recognizing emotions, because we tend to get emotional about things that we care about or that we think that we're right about. That whole perspective taking and that whole everybody gets emotional, and that's where the fights break out. So when you're in that kind of a circumstance, it's kind of like getting a handle on the expression and the communication and the creating of boundaries. I think are the two main things that are coming to mind at that point. For me, that's what kind of, the communication wasn't great, and there was a lot of emotion tied into things. Made it work for a long time because we both believed in the cause. And she's still running the company. I just chose to leave. But it got to a point where I just got to the awareness. I became the self-awareness where I was like, this isn't working for me anymore. And we're not meeting at a happy medium. Yeah. So a change needed to be made. Yeah. So, but yeah, if that answers the question, I guess that's what I would suggest.
I tend to agree. I think when you say clear communication, for me, the very first thing that comes to mind is, of course, we have to communicate clearly. But I think a lot of times what people who are working together in business fail to communicate is how they feel about things. And communicating your intentions and your feelings about things, I think, may be much more effective than communicating your intention for an outcome of a project, or how the other person is doing things, or how you do things in business. Communicating your expectations or your boundaries can be helpful, but when you can find the common ground on your intention and your feelings, then you can partner together down that path towards the outcome that you're trying to achieve.
I think sometimes you just have to, I know for me, I just wish that I kind of had what I would have done differently is not get caught up in the emotion and been more about, this is what we're working towards. This is my boundaries. This is what my strengths are. This is what my perceived strengths and weaknesses are. They can change. They can fluctuate. If you see me not doing something to your expectation or I don't see, then let's talk about it. Don't yell at me. I don't respond well to that. These are the things, this is a list of things I don't respond well to. This is the thing, communicate about it. And because we all have triggers, because we all have stories.
Yeah.
And you don't always, even though somebody may seem like cheery or somebody may seem like they have it all together, you don't know what's going on, because everybody can have a facade. We build up certain kind of layers. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of a real thing that all somebody would have to do is say a certain thing and it could trigger and they wouldn't know that. And I might not even be aware of that. But again, it goes back to the communication.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. I think that's excellent. Okay, so let's talk really quickly for people who are watching that are business owners, that are self-employed, that are looking for a real some way without totally distracting themselves from their existing business and all the things that they have to do and all of their holiday plans. We all, want to take a little bit of time off of business and spend some more time socializing this year. How does how does becoming a published book author help people become more creative or trigger their creativity or support their creativity in their life?
I think it's just realizing that we have stories to share and that they're important. And it's giving yourself permission. Permission is kind of a big word. So it's giving yourself permission to take the time. It's giving yourself permission to realize that you're worthy. And it's giving yourself permission to be seen. And which we can tend to, in the busyness and the hamster wheel, we can tend to kind of become a little invisible just because of the speed that we're moving at. Mm-hmm. So the beauty that I've seen, and I know you've seen, is that like in the multi-author book, is that people that have come into the space, and I had a few of them say it, they're like, I had no idea what this was going to be like. I just felt like it was going to be a good thing, but I didn't know that everything that was going to come from it. And the community that was formed, the opportunities to be able to go into other people's spaces and to become each other's clients and to go into each other's worlds, to then be seen and be seen and be seen. For people, for their own individual growth, I had one of my contributors didn't really want to be seen, she did other things along with the book, but she became so much more expressive using her voice. Literally, she didn't want to do lives, Facebook lives. She was doing lives a few months in to this space. And at first she was like, I'm really embarrassed. I said, why don't you use our group? And everybody's here to support you. Everybody's here to cheer you on. And she came into the space and she kept saying, thank you, thank you, thank you for giving me the confidence. Now she's doing lives, no problem. So it's just so much about kind of giving yourself permission to have that space and be expressive. It's just, people have grown, they literally blossomed.
I really don't think that permission is not fundamental in society. I think the exact opposite, especially for women. We're taught to be pleasant and not really dig into things and not really expose ourselves and to protect ourselves and our families and our children. and our reputation. And so much of what we're taught about using our voice and expressing ourselves and understanding our own message through the practice of sharing what we have to say. So much of that is taught out of us throughout our lives. That when you have the opportunity to participate in something like a multi-author book, because you don't have years of book writing and other confidence and visibility issues coming up that you have to overcome. When you participate in a multi-author book, it sort of like empowers the co-authors in every way. It's like a blank permission slip for everything. It says, oh, you can create a book, as many books as you want. And that's the thing is book publishers and media channels and coaches and everyone else will tell you that you should focus and just do whatever it is that they want you to focus on. But the fact of the matter is, once you start to realize that there is no limitation, the only limitation that exists is within my head, because I took it on when somebody else told me, you're being a little bit too much. You should sit down and listen. You got to earn your seat at the table. Fuck that. Seriously, like, fuck all that shit.
It's true. It's true. And we all have this story. And the beautiful thing about a multi-author book is you don't have to worry about anything else but writing.
Yeah.
All you have to do is write.
Yeah.
And then participate as you want to participate, because the groups that we create have trainings, and we do, make a big deal with the launch, and we help you with visibility, and we have a summit, and we do all of this stuff. You don't have to show up. You can show up, but all you have to do is write your 3,000 words. That's what it is for me. People have different amounts, and we take care of everything else. We take care of the editing, the formatting, the cover design, just everything. And a lot of people, they don't realize, because you're getting into it, you don't know all that goes into it. And it's freeing to not have to worry about all that stuff. You have somebody who's taking care of it all.
Yeah.
And providing a community.
Yeah. That doesn't happen. What I really like about the multi-author book experience is that for people who are, especially for people who have never been published authors before, it is the most alike getting a publishing contract experience that you can possibly have without actually getting the traditional publishing contract. And the fact of the matter is, when you get a traditional publishing contract, it is not at all what you imagine it is. It really isn't as much ease and low cost and low effort as a multi-author book, which is why I love them for people who have never become published before, because it sort of stimulates everything. There's so many people that they participate in a multi-author book, and what it does is it opens up their mind to everything that they can do in this world. All you have to have is that one message that you're bringing forth to the world. And now you can publish as many books as you want on it. You can write and share and produce unapologetically, without waiting for permission, without waiting for anybody else to create the platform or create the ideas for you. And in the multi-author book, it really, what really slows people down in solo books, because it's a huge undertaking, emotionally, financially, mentally, it takes a long time. It's so much more. With the multi-author book, you don't have to think about the cover design. You're going to get a professional cover design that looks good, that fulfills all the things that a cover needs to do for you, which is it needs to appeal to the right people in an instant. At the very first glance, they need to be drawn into the book cover, and you have that professionally designed, so you don't even need to worry about it. And the other thing is, when you have a traditional publishing contract, which still they are awesome. I help my clients get them. I help my clients get towards traditional publishing contracts if that's what you want. The fact of the matter is, having your solo book published by a traditional publisher is probably one of the most lonely, isolating experiences you will ever go through. The publisher will not spend as much time with you explaining things to you as you hope. The fact of the matter is, you pay the publisher for everything that they're doing for you. Everything they're doing for you, you pay for out of the royalties of your book. So traditional publishers don't pay anything. They don't spend any money on their authors' books. The money that they're earning for the work that they do on your book is coming out of your royalties. And so that's where you end up with a publisher. They have control over your cover design, which is sort of like the multi-author book. You're not choosing the cover or the title or the design. They have control over your editing. This is also very much like a multi-author book. And that's a good thing and a bad thing, depending on where you are, right? For some authors, they don't want any editing they don't want to have their hands dirty at all with editing. And other authors have been through the experience a few times and felt like their voice was lost by the editors. And now this time with this next book, they want to control the editing process themselves. And that's where being in a multi-author book and also being traditionally published doesn't work for a lot of authors, because they don't have that opportunity to really control, the same as if you're ready to have your cover be what you envision. Then again, a multi-author book and working with a traditional publisher won't satisfy those needs inside of you. So I think I love that. I love the ideas of multi-author books. You can see over my shoulder, I published the Silver Lining Storybook 5 years ago. It was such an incredible experience to pull it together. And there is nowhere else that you can go through the experience of becoming a book author for the very first time and learning all the things about book marketing, which is a whole new language and new world for most people. Where you can do that within a community of peers who are in step and in stride with you through the tests and through the failures and the things that feel uncomfortable and embarrassing at the start, but they feel that way because you don't know what's coming, right. Which is people saying, "Oh my God, you're so brave. I'm so impressed. I would like to become a best-selling book author, but I've never felt like I could do it." When it gives you the opportunity to start inspiring others. And I guess that's what we're all here to do.
What we're here to do. People tell their stories. And I want to say, like, about the editing, one of the people in my book, she's like, "Hollis, is it okay if I don't accept the edits? Because there's punctuation and grammar." I'm like, "That's totally fine. It's your chapter. It's your choice." And the reason why she said that, which I think made beautiful sense, is she survived a near-death experience. And because of that, she had brain damage at the time. And there was a lot of physical therapy and reworking of her brain, rewiring of her brain that she needed in order to get to the point that she's at. She's fully functioning, and it's been a road. So the fact that she could write a chapter in the first place, she's like, mistakes, I embrace them. I'm just happy I can do it. And she did a disclaimer in the beginning. If punctuation and grammar edits, if this bothered you, I suggest you don't read it. So I thought that that was beautiful. So yeah, within the space, it's just community and expression, and we're just here to share people's stories because it's you need to. And it's like one of my contributors said, if you don't do it for you, then do it for us. Because if you keep that story in you, you're not doing anybody else a service.
No.
We need to hear it because you're going to help at least one person. I'm sure you will help more than one person, but you're going to help that person that needs to hear it, those people that need to hear it, because you're not alone. We're not the only one in our experiences. We just have our take on it.
Yeah.
Powerful.
But also I think that there's so many people and so many stories that we just never tell.
Yeah.
We never talk about, we never explore. And I think for a lot of people, having something like the knowledge, I am participating in this multi-author book, I have my chapter, my story due at a certain date. The activity of assigning yourself this project to sit down and write a particular story is probably something that you've never done before in your life. And it is a healing activity.
Yes,
it is
healing.
The activity that will get you the most growth and the most healing for you just in writing. Now that once it's done, you just send it over to somebody else to edit and have it published. Now you have the opportunity for your growth and your healing from a terrible situation or an unexpected situation that you wouldn't have wanted to happen, but that did happen. Now it's not only are you healed and whatever benefit you can get from that growth comes to you, but you're able to help other people.
Or just situations in general. We have things happen to us all the time that aren't traumatic, that aren't, this big thing, but they have such an impact. I could tell you a million stories in the classroom of how these little things, I remember some of them, it could have been 25 years ago, and I remember it so clearly because it had an impact. It had an impact for me, and because in sharing this, it's going to have an impact with somebody else. So it doesn't have to be all of this like sadness and all this. But when I put it on paper, when I was in a multi-author book, and when I put it on paper, I was like, it's validating. I'm like, ooh, that's actually pretty cool. Oh, I forgot that happened. And this all comes together and wow, I did all that. Yeah. So it just becomes kind of like, me. And we deserve to have that.
Definitely.
We've all lived, even if we think we've lived these lives that aren't eventful, they are. We just, again, get caught up and we get these blinders on and just have to acknowledge ourselves and give ourselves some grace.
And I think it also goes back to the contrast that you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation in our experiences. In experiences that seem insignificant, they can be impactful, they can be significant, even though they're small. And that exercise again of writing is what lets you recognize. I think so many times we don't see our own strength and our own power in the situations that happen that we didn't want or that were bad or that we didn't like initially. When you take the time to think about the story from various angles, or when you take the time, especially to think about the story after the emotional burn has healed, or after it's not quite so raw anymore, when you go back to look at it and when you're trying to look for the moments where you were truly a hero to yourself, or where the moment where you changed everything in just an instant in your brain, everything shifted. Like, some tiny small thing. I was a smoker for 14 years, from age 14 to age 20, almost 28. And it took me 2 years of effort in order to finally quit smoking cigarettes. And that when I finally quit near the end of that 2 years, it was in an instant that I made the decision that everything changed, and it became easy. From that moment, my quit was easy, it was successful, and I've now been a non-smoker for more than 20 years this May.
Wow.
So it's like the small things that can switch really quickly. And you know, like I could be ashamed that I was a smoker for 14 years or all the other things, but how empowering it was that I saw how easy it became to overcome this really difficult, terrible thing in my life that I was doing to myself. It just became, it's like it flipped. And I went from struggling to quit to I'm never doing that again. That was the stupidest thing. I don't even know how I could think that way for 14 years.
It's that mindfulness and that, like you said, it takes, I heard the word resistance in my head as you were talking, like we have these resistance to things. And once we make the decision and once we truly believe it, it's like once we really believe it, or we're more on the side of believing it,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when things change.
Yeah.
If there's too much like fluctuation, and you know, if you believe in the fact that the universe gives you what you think about, or whatever, if you're
The
logical,
power of attraction. What you're thinking about is what you're bringing to yourself.
yeah. So I mean, if you're kind of like, well, maybe not, maybe I want to do it, maybe I don't want to do it, the universe is like, what do you want?
Yeah, you get nothing.
You're gonna get nothing. You get nothing. You get nada.
Yeah,
because you're not making
you get a mix. You know, it's kind of diluted, good and bad, like kind of because and you sort of really stay stuck instead of having that clear focus. And really everything in the law of attraction, everything in The Secret that I've ever heard, and this was, gosh, I think my grade 10 advanced math teacher was telling us about, I think it might have been Zig Ziglar or one of the other greats on mindset and success in life. And the phrase that he gave to us was, if you can see it and achieve it, if you can see it and believe it, you can achieve it, which is that you must believe it's possible in order for something to ever in order for anything to exist in your life. You have to believe that it's possible first. You have to see it happening. You have to believe you can do it, and then you can. But if you start down on that path of intending to do something and intending to have the outcome, but your brain is still, well, but I think this wrong turn, unexpected thing's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. And it's going to make it harder for you to get to the end goal.
I agree.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit longer. I tend to do that always because I love the conversations and I love the connections. So tell everyone who's watching about the multi-author book project that you have coming up right now, that you've got available.
Thank you. So it's called Invisible No More, Stepping into the Spotlight, and probably going to be publishing like around March of next year. And I'm just calling people in right now. So it's basically what that title means to you, Invisible No More. Whether it's been an interesting topic, because different people that I've spoken to, there's times where we want to be invisible, there's times where we don't want to be invisible. It's not that one has to totally be, it's not that you have to be visible all the time. Where I'm kind of coming at it from is the fact that you've gotten to a point where you're like, you know what, my voice matters. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be able to express myself. because for whatever reason, whether it was through myself or somebody else putting me down or society, whatever your perception of it is that has shaped your experience, that you've gotten to a point where you're like, not happening anymore. So so I'm really excited about that.
I love that. I love that so much. I myself felt I when looking back upon my life, saw how much of my life I was invisible. And the idea of stepping into visibility was very scary for me at the beginning of being self-employed. What I had to recognize was that invisibility for me as a child in many of the situations that I was in was actually a superpower. And it was what saved me in those moments, becoming invisible. But you can't, it's difficult to manage and to balance both creativity and invisibility. So when we pick up those habits as a child, I think we have to work really hard to overcome the sense of fear and discomfort and risk taking involved with just simply expressing yourself and being true to what's really truly important to you. So I think if you have a message that you're working to get out to the world, not just the brand new idea, not just a brand new product or project that you're working on right now, but something that you've been working to express over years and maybe just getting clarity on it now. But you want to have more opportunity to connect with other people around the same conversation. I would strongly recommend reach out to Hollis. Have a conversation with her. Do it really quickly because I know she said that they're publishing in March. But if you want to participate in this book, you would need to probably get involved with it in the next week or so, maybe
sooner than later. Sooner than later, because we're like, we have. It's really so much about the community too. So it's about somebody could write a story in 2 weeks, but we want the whole point of being in a space like this is about community and about the support that you're going to get, because there's tons of workshops that I offer, that I have people come in and offer in order to be able to give you more skills and gain visibility. So it's a perfect present for yourself for the holidays.
Absolutely.
And give yourself the present of permission and connection, which will then bring you joy and happiness.
Yeah.
Happy holidays.
Absolutely. And also it's one of those things, like I love working on multi-author books with people right before the holiday season, because they don't even recognize how much power it gives to you to be able to say to your friends and family and the people that you see every single year throughout your life at the holidays, for you to be able to say, I just got a book deal. I'm working on my first book, and I actually have my publisher already set up for my next book.
It's powerful. It's so true.
How empowering and how powerful all the people who have, when people ask you what's new, they expect you to say, oh, the same old, same old. They expect you to say the things that you've struggled with. COVID was really hard for all of us. But when you say, oh my God, things are so exciting. I have just committed myself to publishing my first book. It's actually coming out in March.
Yes.
That starts conversations with people. The minute that you say that to them, the way that they view you, the way that they viewed you forever changes.
Totally.
It shifts. And it gives you the opportunity now to try different things in that relationship, in your life, in your business. So I'm a big fan. I strongly encourage and recommend everyone to reach out if you're not published yet, or if you're thinking about looking for a new opportunity. How do I even take the books that I previously published and figure out new ways of marketing, perhaps within a multi-author book? This is a great opportunity. And if you're really if you're still watching us and you enjoyed this conversation, but you're really not up for a multi-author book right now, if you are a do-it-yourself type of author who's gonna, publish your book regardless, permission no more, permission not needed is the title of my next book, maybe.
There we go. I love it.
Then what I have to offer really exciting that I love is I have a very, very tiny mastermind group specifically for DIY authors, because we don't really cover how to do publishing. I do offer publishing services privately for book authors. And within the group, it is a mastermind group where we have fully funded, successful Kickstarter campaigns. It's a group that I manage. I've worked in advertising and media for 25 years. And so when it comes to books and publishing, my passion is on showing people how they can start marketing and getting financial support for their books well in advance of writing and publishing their book, because that's really what the support and the excitement and the exposure around your book, what you want. You don't have to wait until after it comes out. And I will say the exact same thing for Hollis and for her book. If you participate in her book, keep in your mind that you don't have to wait until the book comes out to start leveraging becoming the best-selling book author in that book right away.
So exciting. My gosh. Thank you so much, Debbie. This has been amazing.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for coming on and for chatting with us. I guess we'll log off. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone coming up in the United States. Happy holiday season. I will be back to talk with everyone in a few more videos, I think, before the end of the year. And if you have questions either for Hollis or myself, please reach out. We're both definitely available on Facebook, so DMs are not hard to find us. Talk to you later, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, so there's a recording on Zoom, and then there's the live on YouTube stream. So I guess I'll download the recording from Zoom, which was the beginning.
Oh, so it did go there?
And then upload it to Facebook. Oh, that stopped video.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe record. Oh, shoot. Record to the cloud. I think I might not have recorded.
Really?
So maybe the live on YouTube was necessary. I don't know, but it said, didn't it just say stop this?
It said stop recording.
Oh, it did say stop this recording. So I did stop the recording, but I also shut off my video, which I was like, oh, did I just shut off my video?
No, it's okay. It's somewhere on the iCloud. I always record to my computer because then I can find it.
Well, yeah, I mean, or if you record to the cloud, I think that just records it on your own Zoom profile, which I always worry about canceling my Zoom membership and then not having access to the videos. But anyways, I'll send you the link and we'll post it up and, share it freely anywhere. I'm going to put it in my free group, and I'll link you on the YouTube video, and yeah, hopefully maybe some people will reach out to you.
Well, sounds good. I appreciate it. Going to go grab something to eat, and then Skylar, my daughter, and I have an outing tonight.
Oh, fun.
So we have some mother-daughter time. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate it. And it was fun. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Definitely. Let me know how things go.
Okay.